Hello, and welcome to the world of Nintendo Aftermarket Games. A presentation by me, and I will further explain who I am in a second. Here we go. Who is this guy? Who am I? This person that you're all sitting here listening to. I wish I was on an, this is what we're doing. I want to be able to see the people in the back. Who is this guy? Christian A. Dietering. I'm a filmmaker, film buff. You'll probably see me around this weekend with a giant camera filming most of the time. I'm a collector and a gamer. I'm not one exclusively. I'm really good at a handful of games, but I also do collect, so I'm the weird guy who does both. I'm also a lover and a long walk taker, but not always in that order. I'm also Ferris Bueller on Nintendo Age, nintendoage.com. It's an internet forum for Nintendo collectors. Got a handful of my peeps in here that some of you I've met, some of you I haven't. So if I haven't met you guys, introduce yourself so I get to put faces with names. I created what is known as the Aftermarket Price Guide. And I will get to what Aftermarket is here in a second. It's one of the only stickies in the price check forum on Nintendo Age, which is a really big deal for me because it's not easy to get a sticker on that forum. So awesome. And I created the Aftermarket Price Guide because of what I refer to as the Gwyndian effect. Gwyndian was a member on Nintendo Age. He's kind of retired. He's still around, but I got into these new games that people were making, and people would be selling them, and this guy Gwyndian would show up and be like, "Oh, that game hasn't sold in like 3 years, man. That's a $1,000 game." But there was like no data to back this up at all. It was just like this one guy that everybody really respected, and he knew his stuff, but his prices were so arbitrary. And for me, the guy who showed up late to the party, I'm trying to buy this stuff, like this dude was being an asshole, not helping me out at all. So I was like, you know what? I know how to get around this. I'm actually gonna start tracking the prices. That way, it's not arbitrary, we got hard data. I also do the Let's Play Gaming Expo. It's a new interacting gaming convention down in Dallas, Texas. Last year was our first year. We had 1,200 people. It was awesome. We got a national Smash tournament, low tier city. The only classic Tetris World Championship qualifier. The championship takes place at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, but I'm friends with Vince, and we got to do a tie-in with him. So you can actually qualify for one of the 32 spots at our expo, which is super awesome. And I think that we had the second largest arcade in Texas. The Pinball Festival also happens there, and they usually have like 400 to 500 machines. We had 90, but they're so far ahead of us. But our 90, I think, we were the second largest arcade in Texas for a second, and that's kind of cool. This year it's going to be June 18th and 19th. Hold on, let me get some water real quick. I got a lot of slides. I have to go quick through this thing. God damn it, Fat Chris. All right, so here's a little bit of my game room, just to give you an idea of what I'm into. I'm really focused on Nintendo. This is my cabinet with a whole bunch of cool stuff in it. You got my Shark TV, and then my demo systems down below. This is my full NES license set, and before somebody asks me, no, I don't have stadium events. That's the spot for it, maybe someday. That's the only game that I'm missing. And then don't even think about trying to find me. If you've seen my episode of Game Chasers, the shotgun is always by my bed. I got the eye in the sky just in case. I had somebody rob my car out of my driveway, so it didn't have anything to do with this, but I'm a little paranoid now. And I live in Texas, so it's legal for me to just shoot. They don't care down there. So just like the price guide, this is welcome to my completely imperfect aftermarket game presentation. That's kind of the preface to the guide, which is I'm just a dude, apparently I'm an expert at some point, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm just a guy. So I'm gonna make mistakes. I just ask everybody, kind of bear with me. There could be a little bit of wrong information, like a year or a number, something like that. But most of this should be pretty accurate. I actually spent the last hour and a half just making sure I had some of this right. I'm going to do some giveaways at the end, courtesy of John Miller. Did I get that right? It's John Miller, right? Yeah? I'm going to ask some questions about the panel afterwards. He operates the side. This room is an illusion, and he has brought some of his products over here. I'll be giving away this copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 Mix. It is a hack of Super Mario Bros. 3. It's a CIB. It's got a freaking awesome manual. It's like 44 pages long or something. Real pretty. The games next to it are also things that he brought just to kind of show off. And then I've got a whole bunch of paperwork that he wants to get rid of, and it's all kind of oversized manuals and stuff like that. First dibs, because I haven't looked at it yet, but when this is over, come on up here and take something home with you. That was real solid of you, man. Thanks. This guy right here, free stuff.
His name is John, and he's sexy.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, man, Chris. All right, so the disclaimer. What am I not talking about? What I'm not talking about are reproductions of licensed game made in the same region. And I say NTSC and NTSC. I know there's some nerd out there who's going to be like, Japanese is NTSC. I think you know what I mean. I'm talking about people faking games that were in that area. In other words, fakes. Yeah, there we go. And then being the film buff, I got some quotes for you talking about fakes. A moissanite. It's Mickey Mouse, mate. Spurious, not genuine. It's worth fuck all. It's a Fugazi, a fake. You go ahead and sell it if you want to look like a dumpski. That would be Snatch and Donnie Brasco. All right, so let me give you like a firm example. I'm talking about somebody who's making a copy of a game that's available. You can get it. It's just high priced, and they don't want to do it. So Little Samson Flintstones 2, Hagani. I'm not big in Super Nintendo. Is that right? Is that how you say it? Okay, sorry. I'm not Super Nintendo. I'm not as good at it. And then test cards. I've seen that, and it makes me so angry because like general repro, I would think would be just like the cart, $25, $35 maybe. Some of them get a little more complicated when you're doing the RPGs and stuff like that. I'll grant that. But I'm talking like somebody, and I don't have pictures. I've taken them, but I forgot to include them. Like somebody making a fake test cart and then putting it up on eBay for like $500. What the shit? That is like insane to me. And then I feel sorry for the people who don't know better, and are buying them thinking that there's value, and it's not. Anybody could do it. So that's what I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about fake stuff. But that leads into something interesting, and this got discussed a lot on NA, and that's where a lot of this information came from, is just the talks that we've had amongst members. And I'm going to talk about the repro misnomer. Everyone is getting this wrong. It's very, very interesting how this has happened. Most people, when they say repro, what they're really talking about are bootlegs and pirates. But this interesting thing has happened. What is a true repro? Like, what would a repro really be? A true repro would be Cheetah Man 2, and I'm talking about one from Greg Pavich. If you don't know about Greg Pavich, he bought the rights to Action 52. I can't remember the company, but it was the guys who made Action 52, Cheetah Man, Action Enterprise. So he bought the intellectual property from those guys. He did that Kickstarter video with the Angry Video Game Nerd and Pat the NES Punk, and he reproduced the game. That was a true reproduction. He went about it the right way. He legally got the rights. He redid it, and that was a reproduction of something that had already been made. Other examples would be 3D Noah's Ark by Pico Arcade. He bought the rights from Wisdom Tree for all their games. And then, this is interesting, because previously in this thing I would have said Sunday Fun Day by Infinite NES Lines, but I found out that they didn't actually get the rights to Wisdom Tree stuff. They're actually like subleasing it from Pico. I found that out like a month or two ago, and I thought that was really interesting. So here's a copy of my Cheetah Men's from Greg Pavich. Here's a copy of Sunday Fun Day from Infinite NES Lives, and then you can see like it's almost the same, but they've got that little thing on the back so that you can tell this is not a fake. They have branded it so that you know it's something else. All right, so what is an aftermarket game? And this is the definition that I'm going with. A game made after the lifespan of the system. And there's a bunch of different types. And this is the reason that I'm trying to hit on this aftermarket thing, because I want to kind of disrupt the confusion that I keep seeing. So some of the things that I'm going to be talking about: reproductions, hacks, translations, unreleased games, homebrews, and then other. And other encompasses a couple different things. So I don't mean to get all scientific on you, but what we're seeing with that word repro is a semantic shift in the gaming community. The definition of the repro has changed. So I told you what repro should really mean, but we have used it so much in a different way that that meaning no longer really applies. We have created a new meaning for this word. It's already in our lexicon, but like I said, it's evolved and it's become something else. If you want to know more about this, you can look into linguistics and etymology. That's the study of languages and words. I'm really fascinated by this. Like, I know it's kind of dumb, but like, the fact that this word has completely changed and means something else is really cool to me. All right, Ferris, can we get on to the good stuff? Let's do it. So why aftermarket? I like the term aftermarket because it's all-encompassing. I ran into this problem when I started out. I was late to the party, so everything that I'm doing is always catch-up because I wasn't there when it all started. God, I wish I was. I talked to Memlers, man, and he was telling me about like our IRC chats in '96 when they were figuring out how to break down ROMs, and that just like blew my mind that they were doing that stuff back in like '96. Because I don't find out about this until I think 2008. That's how far behind I am. I wish that I had been there earlier because it's so awesome. All right, so I did the homebrew price guide. That was the first title that I put, and I mistitled it. I will admit that. I was including limited edition repros that were numbered and these art carts and other stuff, and it turned in, there's a little heated discussion where I was showing how wrong I was. And then in true Ferris fashion, in order to let them know I understood, I renamed it the newly renamed Homebrew Repro Translation on Released Games that are either discontinued or limited edition price guide, maxed out the subtitle for the forum, and then they asked me to tone it down, and that was when we changed it to the aftermarket price guide. So when does the aftermarket begin? Technical definition, there's two different ways you could look at it. It could be when the last game was made or when service was suspended. And the interesting thing, and I need to actually double check this because it's just something like I heard on the forum, but I thought it was kind of cool. Word was that you could call the Nintendo hotline up until like the mid-2000s, like that 1-800 service center, and you could still send your stuff in and they'd fix it. And I thought that was kind of cool. But for the sake of my argument, I'm going to talk the last game for the console. Here are the systems that I'm going to kind of be covering. If you'll notice, Nintendo, Super, N64, Game Boy, GBA, and VB, they're all cart-based systems. There's not very many people that are getting into disc-based stuff that I know of. I know that I have a Sega CD, like music cart, but for the most part, a lot of this stuff is taking place on the cart systems. And then here you go, just so you get an idea of when I'm considering the end of the systems. I've got all the systems I'm talking about, followed by the game, and then the date that it was last released. So that's kind of like the death throes right there. It's my childhood, man. All right, so what came first? The first repro that I have, or at least the earliest one that I can tell, is this copy of Dig Dug. And I know that it's early because the label printing quality is terrible. The edges are like really hard diagonals instead of the nice rounded. You could just tell that it is like somebody made it and was like, all right, let's play Dig Dug. Now, I need to talk to Memlers because this was my theory, but after talking with him, I think I may have this backward. I had supposed that the hack was the beginning, and I think that's technically right because they were messing around with the ROMs, trying to understand how that cart in the system was working. And I think that after they found out how to do that, that would lead to messing with it. And I'm putting those two, maybe the hack and translation together because, well, let's see if we can change sprites. Let's see if we can make this game that wasn't in English. So I'm assuming that those two might have been going on around the same time. And then you kind of also have like the unreleased, the games that people are finding and then figuring out, how do we dump this? I want a copy of it. How do we get it on a cart? And then I've got other and finally homebrew. So other would be like projects people were doing with Nintendo or carts. And then the ultimate, you have made a brand new game for an old system. All right, so what are they? I'm going to go through the types of carts, give you a little bit more. The repros, like I said, this has kind of been a blanket term for some of the stuff that I'm going to cover, even though it might not actually be a repro. The weird thing is, a repro, you can include a hack or a translation. So it's kind of like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't a square. Like sometimes the term fits one way, but maybe not the other. It doesn't go back and forth. Sorry, I confused myself. Yeah, it doesn't go back and forth equally, I guess. Sorry. Anyways, example of true repro, the Dig Dug that I was talking about. It wasn't released here in America. We got Dig Dug 2, but in Japan they actually had Dig Dug. So somebody, took the code from it, dumped it on a new cart, and bam, I can play Dig Dug. It's a good game. So hacks is taking a game and changing it, and it could be turning it into something else, like, let's see, the ICP hack of, Super Mario Brothers 2? Is that right? Like there's somebody who did like a hack of that where it's the same game, but the sprites are different. So you're playing around with like ICP characters and stuff like that. So that's just kind of changing the art. But then there's also keeping the theme of the game, but making it different and harder. So that's like someone like me who's really, really good at Contra You know, maybe I want to make a harder version because I think that thing's easy and I can beat it no problem. You know, so that might be the other way that you could go with it. And then I got two examples of what I just talked about. I got Donkey Kong and Eris. Donkey Kong was a sprite hack where they took Donkey Kong and then changed it to match an internet meme. And then Eris was a Super Metroid hack competition, and that was the cart, I believe, that won that year. And it's just, you know, a new version of Metroid, and I believe it is a little more difficult. I don't know because I haven't opened my copy. Oh yeah, so here we go, Donkey Kong. This was the meme that was passed around the internet. It was supposedly a Jeopardy question. Video game characters, blue collects rings, goes fast, and then there's the lady with her answer, who is Donkey Kong? So that turned into a joke. There's a member on Nintendo Age teamed up with another guy. They were on a different forum. NES World, NES Collect. I can't remember the other forum. Sorry. But they teamed up, and so they did a sprite hack where now Donkey Kong's blue. He throws rings. The level is the Sonic level instead. It's pretty fun. And then this is Super Metroid Ares. This was a CIB copy. The hack competition was really weird. Somebody got permission from the guy to make 7 copies of this game. And then on Digital Mantra's website, it says you can download the ROM for free. And he says if you're buying a copy that doesn't look like this, that you're getting a fake, you shouldn't be paying for it. It's kind of interesting thing. I'm really curious why he only did 7 copies. It's weird to me. But whatever, it's out there. You can download the ROM from his website. So translations, games released in another region, but not in English. Examples would be Akira or Final Fantasy 2J and 3J. I highly recommend 3J, and I recommend not ever playing 2J. It's really, really hard. So those were games that, you know, were released over in Japan, and fans took the time to translate them, redo the code in the ROM, and then there have been projects where like copies were released CIB. Unreleased games, all right, so usually these are canceled projects. I had heard some of them, maybe 1 or 2 might be from Nintendo's coding class. Did I make that up? That's the only one that I need to verify, Nintendo gave like a coding class at some point, and I was wondering, did any of the stuff that came out, was it the student projects? See, so now this is one of those points where I'm not 100% sure, but I know that there was a coding class given, and I'm curious if any of the projects that the students made have been turned into games. No?
It was actually a class at college. A guy taught the program.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they never put out notes or anything. They all made games that
Oh, it doesn't? Thank you, guys. So it doesn't. They did make games in the class, but it doesn't run on hardware. See, I need a clarification. I appreciate that. So some of the examples of games, I think I got all these right. Kitty's Catch, I believe, was an unreleased game. Chuck Yeager's Fighting Combat was unreleased because it's a flight simulator and it's really, really hard to get used to. Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill was a game about Bill Clinton's cat up at the White House. Infamous game that has yet to be released. And then the elusive and fabled SimCity for Nintendo, who I have not confirmed that anybody has ever seen a copy of. All right, so other. In the other category, I'm including art projects. There's a guy who made a hack of Super Mario Brothers where he got rid of everything except for the clouds. And then I think he made it so that it looked like Mario was running the entire time because the clouds move, and the clouds are normally static. So it was just a video that was shown in a museum, but it was like, you know, it was a cart that he plugged in, and then all you did was just sit and you just watched the clouds float by. I think that was awesome. That was a long time ago, too. I want to say that was like 2004 that he did that. Look it up. There's also music carts. There are people who have been doing soundtracks on Nintendo carts. Some of them are original, like chip tuners that have created original music, and then they're just putting it on a cart, maybe as like a limited edition release on Bandcamp or something. Recently, there was a guy who did a Journey cart where he really wanted Journey music on Nintendo, and so he made a CIB just called Journey.
Did he use the Journey cartridge to release it?
That one was very underground. I got an email where it was like, hey, if you want a copy of this thing, send me some PayPal money. It was just like a weird little project somebody did. If you like Journey, look into it. And then, like I said, there's the chip tuners who are doing NES and Game Boy to make music. And then there's power packs. And I'm sorry, I'm mixing the music carts with chip tuners. So the chip tuners are actually making carts that manipulate the NES. And so you can use the controllers, the keyboard to make it do different sounds and stuff out of the Nintendo and the Game Boy. So like there are carts that are just made to like hack the Nintendo and make it do things that you want it to do. And then at the very end, I got power packs and EverDrives, which are carts that you could essentially put a compact flash or an SD card in and play all the ROMs you want. So if you can't afford Flintstones 2, you could always buy a power pack or an EverDrive, download the ROM, and you can play it that way. All right, so here's a copy of a weird music cart that I kind of got to work on a little bit. This is a Game Boy game called Boneless. It was made by a guy, let's see, over in Norway, because this guy put the code NOR. I made the label art for it. I contacted the guy and asked him if I could make a label, and he was cool with it. So that was what I came up with. But this cart, you plug it into a Game Boy, and it just emits tones, a single tone at random intervals. That's all it does. So you pop it in, and it's like, and that's like all it does. And it just keeps going. So it's very experimental, but I was fascinated by it. I need to talk to him again and ask him like why he did it. So here's some art carts. Back in, I can't remember the website. Like they make them all the time now, but like when it first happened, there was a website that decided to do art carts, where they had artists develop, the label art, and then they sold it in batches of 5, and then on the back of it, it's got the name of the cart and then the signature of the artist. That website, since that initial offering, now just like offers the carts. It doesn't have the artist signature. They're not limited. You can just like go buy them. But the 3 movie ones that I wanted, I got that from the original one. I wish I had gotten there a little bit earlier because they had a Ron Swanson cart, and I did not get it. So here are some of my music carts. Over on the right-hand side are actual carts that play music. And then here in the middle, I got my Chip Maestro, my MIDI NES. Those are carts that you can plug in and then have, I don't remember what outs they are. I think the Chip Maestro is a USB. The MIDI NES is like a weird audio plug. But you take the cart, you plug it into something else, and then you can create music and stuff with it. And then here's a Game Boy cart that's a bunch of chip tuners, submitted music for a contest for Halloween, and then afterwards they picked the winners, and then they created the Heebie-Jeebies Halloween 2004 cart. I really liked the art on that one. I thought those guys knocked it out of the park. And then here's a copy of my EverDrive 64. So that's something, if I wanted to, I could pop all my 64 ROMs in and I could play it. And then, the ultimate, like, the dream is the homebrew. These are brand new games being made, usually by one person for old systems. So this is just somebody who loved that system so much that they have taken the time to learn how to code for it, developed a game, developed an idea, created the levels, checked the gameplay, all that stuff. And so examples, I got Battle Kid, which is a pretty well-known one by Civic, because it's so awesome and plays really well. It is based off I Want to Be the Guy. It's kind of like Mega Man, but it's one hit, you die, you go back to a checkpoint. It's really hard. I'm good at Mega Man, and I hate that game. It is so difficult. Another one would be Armed for Battle. I beta tested for that one. It's super awesome. If you like strategy-based games, this is a new strategy game for Nintendo. It was really well done. I'm still like amazed how good that game was. So here's a copy of the CIB, Armed for Battle. So in the beginning, who did it first and how did they do it? This is kind of like a timeline. Because here's the thing, people who are just now finding out about this stuff, you can go on Etsy, eBay, trying to think of what else. I saw a guy, he's selling games, and the only place you can buy it from him is on like Twitter or Instagram or something. Like, it's just, this market's kind of exploding. And so a lot of these people, they're doing CIB, People have gotten accustomed to, oh yes, I'm gonna get a cart and a manual and a box. But it didn't start that way. Like, there's progress that leads up to us being able to recreate these games. So how did they do it? The first it would have just kind of been cart only, and I think that is how it started. It was just people were figuring out, hey, I can make a copy of this thing. I'm going to put a label on it. A lot of the times the labels weren't that great. It was usually just like printer paper. Eventually somebody figured out if you put packing tape on printer paper, it looks pretty nice. And now, they're getting into it looks just like the real thing. You can't even tell that it's something that somebody's making now. It looks like stuff they were doing 20 years ago. So after just the cart came the tin. And my guess is there was this need for completeness where it was like, the carts are good, but I really want something that's got like that box and manual feel. But I don't think that and I need to check on this too, because I'm not sure if the tins came first or if somebody actually made a CIB. But the tins were kind of the first thing that I remember getting into. So then eventually you get to the CIB, which is we figured out the card stock, we figured out what kind of printing we needed to do, we know how to make it actually look like they used to a T. So what's going to happen now? I don't know, man, to infinity and beyond. All right, so here's a copy of all my tins that I'm talking about. So, like I said, my guess is that, I want something to put it in. Oh, here we go, John. As far as I know, he was. Oh yeah, so it was in GD. Yeah, sorry, because he was gone by the time I joined. Like he was he was leaving as I'm getting in. So him and then NES dump. Is that what you said? Yeah. So those were the two places that were doing it. I think they're really early on, especially like the Sudoku homebrew. So let's get into the homebrews. The first homebrew. Now, this is one of those things where like I'm still not 100% sure, and I was telling them this. I've got Roadkill, which is right here being listed as the first homebrew. I keep having people tell me Solar Wars might have been first, but I don't know. I haven't seen anybody actually show a copy of a cart that they bought from Chris. Like I always hear, oh, he sold them, but nobody's ever actually shown a picture of it. So as far as I know, this is the prototype for Solar Wars. The line on this one that I know, Nolan Brothers, I think, bought it from Chris. DeIllis buys it from the Nolan Brothers. Gwendian buys it from DeIllis, and then I buy it from Gwendian. So that's the line for this thing. But I think this is the prototype. I think this might be the only legit copy of that game. So I think that's kind of cool. But since he didn't actually sell it, I don't know if you can include that. So I'm going to stick with Roadkill. And Roadkill actually did get sold. That was a game that was created by Memblers. It is a port of Freeway from Atari. And from what I understand, he was probably about halfway through with it, and then he just kind of got tired of the project and decided, I'm done. And he's an interesting guy. After meeting and chatting with him, I could see that, where he's just like, nah, I'm gonna go on to other stuff. So what he did is he sold it on eBay. It was that copy right there, and then a CD with all of the source files for the code. And he sold it, and it didn't go for very much, and I don't think anybody knew who bought it. It just kind of disappeared. Well, then his computer died, and he lost all of the files, and poof, there goes the game that nobody knows what's going to happen to it. It just disappeared. So it was gone up until 2014 when somebody shows up on Nintendo Age and says, hey, you guys, I bought this game at a garage sale this weekend, but I can't find any info about it. And I flipped my shit because I had been looking on eBay for like 3 years at every single Roadkill, just in case. And I was like, when's this thing? And maybe it'll pop back up, I don't know. But that was how it happened. 30 minutes? All right, I think I'm doing good. So yeah, 10 years this game was gone, and then mysteriously it pops back up. I immediately contacted the guy and told him I've been looking for this thing forever. He ended up selling it to somebody else, and then that person unfortunately got laid off their job and needed money, and they knew that I was into it, so they hit me up, and now I'm the proud owner of the only copy of that game, and that's it. If anybody's got a Nintendo, we can pop it in and play it later. That's what my stuff's here for, too. The whole reason I collect these things is I consider my game room a library, so that what I was running into is it's hard to find information about this stuff. But I mean, before I did the price guide, it was just kind of like, it was out there, but it wasn't organized. You had to look around for it. So my game room is a library. If you ever have any questions about this stuff, hit me up. I'll take pictures. I've been known to open my sealed items if there were questions about what was really inside. Or if you just want to play something, like, this is your chance. I happen to have this stuff. I don't care. I'll pop it in. Let's play it. So after Roadkill was Frog Feast. Frog Feast was for the Super Nintendo. It was also released on like a whole bunch of different other systems too. It's really hard to find a copy of. It's one of the few games that I don't have an example of. If I had one, it would be here so I could show you guys. But regarded as the father of the homebrew. Oh, you got one?
I should really. I got a copy.
Father of the homebrews is Garage Cart. It is a multi-cart. It's got 3 different games on it. It was programmed by Memblers, and I believe were all 3 games by different people? 2 are Memblers, and yeah. So 2 are Memblers, the other one's Chris. So Garage Cart, it was released in June of 2006. There were 24 total that were sold. They were both PAL and NTSC, but Memblers doesn't remember how many he did of each. It's 3 games on 1 cart. You got Munchie Attack, Hot Seat Harry, and Solar Wars. And it is, yeah, it's the most expensive aftermarket game out there. I had to change this earlier. I used to have average price because it was kind of one of those things like it may change hands between collectors, but you never really knew. It was kind of private. But there was an auction recently, and it sold for about $18.50. So I got a hard number on that one now. It's the highest price game out there that you can get. It's kind of crazy. Oh, and then it's like, okay, why is this game so expensive? Well, like I said, it's considered the homebrew holy grail. It's the first one, but the reason all this is happening is because you can't dump the ROM. I talked to Memblers about it, and this is what he told me. It can't be dumped. It can't be emulated yet because it's a unique mapper. It was just him using the cheapest parts he could because nobody was making anything new at the time. He had to get fancy with it. I opened mine up the other day, and I saw that he had to Dremel the cart in one place to do some wires and stuff like that. So it's this weird thing where, like, again, that's another game that is going to sit there. Now, I know there's a nerd out there who said, well, I bet you I could take that game apart and do whatever. Yeah, I'm sure you could take the game apart, but who's going to actually rip the ROMs off that thing? So as far as I'm concerned, it's probably going to be on dump for quite some time. So who's in this market? Who's buying this stuff? You kind of got these 2 people that are button heads. You got gamers and collectors because they're making games that weren't available, games that weren't made, or like now there's games that are art. This like weird thing where people are making like high-end games so that you can show off and have it be the centerpiece of your collection. And now there's the newcomer. Like for a while it seemed as if it was just kind of a bunch of nerds hanging out. Like we all love Nintendo. I want to make this cool little thing. All right, sweet, I'll take it. Like the Garage Cart. I know Dane, the guy who owns Nintendo Age, he bought 2 because they couldn't get rid of them. He was like, all right, Memblers, I'll buy 2 so that you don't have to sit on that one. Like, that's how it used to be, but now, man, it's mean. All right, so who's making this stuff? The major players. Retro USB, formerly known as RetroZone. They're the maker of the NWC Repro. If you've ever had a chance to play NWC, it's most likely thanks to this guy. Soon to be maker of the original HDMI NES, and I had original in there previously because what's that other one that looks exactly like his? The Analog NT? Fuck those guys. I got really upset. I'm a fan of Vice. I think Vice and their reporting is pretty cool, but when I saw Vice do an article on the Analog NT talking about, look at this brand new thing, when Bunny Boy at Retro USB had been showing us the progress on his thing, they basically took his design, ripped it off completely, and then tried to market it as their own. Thank God.
That was bullshit.
Thank God they didn't know what they were doing, and they canceled the project. However, he's going strong. All we're waiting on this guy is his stuff to come over from China because he knows what he's doing and his stuff is awesome. All new parts on all of his carts and stuff that he does, new boards. He does the translucent shells. That used to be a way that you could recognize him. Not anymore because for a long time he was the only person making new parts. Now, like I said, we're in this new place where now there's a lot of people that have taken the time to make new molds, and so I'm seeing a lot of translucent carts out there. I have to like watch myself now. The weird thing is, it's just a matter of time before somebody makes a fake of a fake. Think about that. People are going to be making stuff, I think, on these at some point. Yeah. So, here's some of my retro USB carts so that you can kind of see the translucent shells I'm talking about. This was the last product that he kind of really pushed. He officially, I think, hit all the challenge carts for Nintendo. This was the last one, PowerFest. He did both versions, the 1,000,000 point and the 10,000 point. The 10,000 point was limited. The general one is 1,000,000. So let's see here. He's also the maker of the 8-bit Xmas carts. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I got it, my 2008 right here. It's got some LEDs in it. It's made to be played in a top loader. I think they're all multiplayer too, because the idea is that you open it on Christmas and you play Nintendo with your family. And so it's the second most expensive homebrew because he only made 50, and again, this is 2008, so like things hadn't really taken off. It was just kind of the people on the forum like, oh, sweet, yeah, I'll support you and buy your project. The last few auction has sold for 1,000 plus. I don't really have any hard data on like where it is, but for sure, like it's over 1,000 now. Followed by that, he started giving out free gifts if you had a full set. So if you bought his Xmas cart every single year, because he releases a new one every year. In 2012, he said, if you take a picture of your full set, I will send you an extra gift. And the extra gift was his sleeves, because when he first started his site, he didn't have those clear sleeves with his name on it. So the first two didn't get that, and that was his like bonus thank you, like, you know, I appreciate you guys supporting me. Here's 2 sleeves to put on your other 2. In 2013, he gave everybody with a full set a white box CIB. And I found out later on the forum that there were only 20 of those made. So it's weird. I haven't seen what this one sell, but technically that white box is more rare than the 2008 one. I don't see anybody really hyping that up, but whatever. In 2014, you got a free poster. And then this year, I forgot what we got. Oh yeah, we got a coupon. You either got 50% off of everything that he sells, or you got 10% off of the HDMI NES. Oh. I got 10%. Did we ever find out who had 50? There was only one 50% off all this stuff. I didn't see anybody claim it. All right, so another big player was Time Walk Games. They've come and gone. They were known for their Super Nintendo CIBs. They were doing a lot of the RPG stuff. They did some CIBs for NES as well, but I really feel like the Super Nintendo is what they were getting known for. They did some neat limited edition projects like a Big Box Metroid redesign. There was a like Super Star Fox Weekend, or was it Star Fox 2? It was one of the Star Fox games, and they did a Doom edition where they used the red cart shell instead, and then a Sweet Home limited edition. In 2013, they mysteriously shut down. They just completely disappeared. They did a fire sale on all their stuff, and then by January, they were gone. I haven't heard anything about them. I'm usually pretty quiet about it, but this might be one of the last times I do this panel. My theory is that Nintendo came after them. I don't have any confirmation of this, but I think that there was probably a cease and desist involved to see them disappear that quick. That's what I think happened. And so now what's happening is because they just kind of disappeared, a lot of their games are going for buku bucks. It's kind of tamed down a little bit. But if we can ever find out for real why they shut down, I think that it's possible that the prices could go back up. So here's a copy of my Super Metroid redesigned big box. You can kind of see a regular CIB over there on the side to give you an idea of the size. Time Walk Games, left at the top of their game. I mean, they were the ones who did the DuckTales lunch pail that everybody, you know, got real hyped up about. They got approached by Capcom, and they were the ones who created that. So that was one of their products, and it was shortly after that product that they shut down. So I'm also wondering if that just drew a little bit too much attention. They worked with Capcom, you know, so that one was legit, but all the other stuff they were doing on their website, So they had a bunch of contributors. It wasn't just like it was one guy. This was like a team of people that were working on all this stuff. I know that one of the guys who was working there now has joined Rose Colored Gaming, and I'll talk about them in a second. Ask around. I said ask around. I don't want to throw out names. I'm just pretty sure that somebody from Time Walk works for Rose Colored Gaming now. If you know otherwise, go for it. But I'm pretty sure that they've got somebody over there. Major artists, one of the guys who was creating the boxes and the art forum, he went on to create this Room in His Delusion. And this is something I would normally talk about, John. I didn't add that because you're here. This is normally I would have just said that this guy went on and made this awesome website, but we're lucky enough that that guy actually is sitting here in the front row. Okay, so Rose Colored Gaming, this is I am buying one thing from them and it will be the centerpiece of my collection because that's all I can afford. Their stuff is really high priced, but to be fair, they're doing some really interesting things. This is where I would say this is art. Like, this is something that you stare at and it looks pretty. It's not for the average collector, like I said. Custom parts and handhelds, they have gone out and bought like those laser cutters and all that stuff. I mean, they're making all sorts of neat things. So like, here's my Earthbound Zero that you can see the Earth in, but it's clear, you can see Ferris Bueller's eyes through the other side. So there's like a hole in this cart, got that translucent thing. This is the kind of stuff that they're doing. Like, it's unique stuff. So then they did this other game. I think that someday maybe this might jump up there if we can get the word out and people find out about it. They made this game called Shadowhawk. It was an unreleased prototype for the Super Nintendo. And it was based on a comic series, Shadowhawk. So this was supposed to be a legit release. From the stories that I heard, they had talked to the company that made the game. And they'd gotten permission. And when I say they, I'm not even going to say Rose Colored Gaming. I'm going to say the person who owned the cart originally had checked and made sure, are you guys cool with us making this game? And the company that made it signed off, from what I heard. The issue, because I went and read the lawsuit, the issue was that when they made the box, they used the artwork from the comic. And they didn't get permission from the creator of the comic or the artist to use that stuff. And so the artist of the comic found out what they had done and sued them. And so this is, I think, the second recalled game in the Aftermarket like genre. The other one would have been Princess Rescue on Atari Age. They got hit with a cease and desist by Nintendo, and that got pulled. And I mean, it wasn't even called Super Mario. It was obviously Super Mario, but it was called Princess Rescue, and that got pulled. And then this is the second game that I know of that they got in trouble. They had already sold copies. I got a copy. It's sitting on my shelf. But after the lawsuit happened, any materials that they had to send to the artist. So that guy has all the extra stuff. I think Wiggy came on the forum and told me that he sold like 36 before the lawsuit happened. I had to double check that number, but there's a handful that got out. So here's my copy. The problem is it's really hard to see the artwork, but there's actually like frames of the comic on there. It's really, really like opaque. You can barely see it, even if you have like the box and you're staring at it. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. It's panels from the comic. I just added this, Fishy Face Games. Same as Rose Colored Gaming. So this is a new website that just popped up, and these guys are pumping out repros, and they're nice looking stuff. I'll give you that. I was interested. They're getting ready to do a project. It's something that nobody else has had, so I was interested, and I want to sign up, as in, yeah, take my email, tell me more. And I noticed that when I did the sign up, the form came back, and it said, thanks for signing up to our newsletter, and at the bottom it said Rose Colored Gaming. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I thought I was at a different website. So I took a screen capture just in case anybody calls me on what I just said. I have a screen cap of it. This is why I'm pointing this out, because I'm a little bit perturbed. One, that guy never responds to me, so honestly, I'm not that worried. He's never responded to any of my emails or PMs, so whatever. I don't have to worry about hurting his feelings because I don't know the dude. But what I am seeing is Fishy Face Games is on eBay, and they have started selling Rose Colored Game products that have been labeled as discontinued for 2 to 3 times the price they originally offered. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's obviously not good. I know that. I'm not happy with what I'm seeing. I don't know how far I want to take that. I don't know. Whatever that mood is that I'm in, I'm trying to tone it down. But the fact that they are discontinuing games on one website, coming over and using another one on eBay to sell the games over here they said are discontinued for double the price. It's a little fishy! Hey, thank you. All right, yeah. All right, so they have started offering new products that Time Walk was going to offer. So I know that there were some products that Time Walk was getting ready to do, and then it fell apart. And I'm starting to see those products show up on Fishy Face Games' website. That's part of the reason that I think there's something going on between the two, because they have the artwork and stuff. Like, I mean, it's the same artwork, because I have some of the prototypes from Time Walk that weren't released, and now they're selling the exact same thing on Fishy Face Games. Just Time Walk label's gone, Fishy Face instead. All right, so this room is an illusion. Yeah, you may not know his company, you do now, but you probably knew who he was. He created the Mega Man 10 press kit. So there was the Mega Man 9 press kit that was out there, and then when Mega Man 10 came out, which was an awesome game, nobody was really doing anything. So Jay Miller over here took the ball up, went out there, kicked ass, took some names, and made the Mega Man 10 press kit, and it's really cool. And then he did 2 versions of it. So there was like 2 different... Yeah, he did. He worked with another guy in Nintendo Age Vlad, a really awesome graphic designer down in Mexico. And so there's actually 2 box versions of it. Great graphic designer. Look, I swear, dude, all this was in here every other time I gave this. He does, I put CIB repros, but I looked at your website. You don't actually sell carts, do you?
No, I'm not big into making the cards. It's
Just boxes and manuals, yeah. So if you needed a box or a manual, he's also got some like really interesting like just fantasy projects too. Let me go to that real quick. So here's the Mega Man 10 press kit that he did. Comes with a cart inside of it, right? And then what's in the cart?
So it's set up exactly like the Mega Man 9 card. You can open up the card with a soundtrack in there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So the cart opens up and then there's a soundtrack inside the
Nothing
cart.
on the disc.
Yeah. It doesn't play the game, it's just a holder. But it looks super awesome. Okay, so then here's his copy of Metroid 2 for Super Nintendo. That was a Game Boy release, but if you use the Super Game Boy, you can plug it in there, and that kind of gets you to the Super Nintendo version.
You can solder the Super Game Boy inside the SNES card.
Yes, I don't have
Game
one.
Boy cart onto the SNES. You can stuff everything inside of the cart, and basically it's a super expensive Metroid 2.
So what if you can't hear him up here, people are starting to take the Super Game Boy apart, take the game Metroid apart, put them together, and then jam that entire thing into a Super Nintendo cart so that it looks like you're just popping Metroid 2 into your Super Nintendo.
It's really a waste.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff going on up there. Yeah, it's a tight one. So here's another company, Flashback Entertainment. They started off, they were just doing carts only. Now they do full CIB. I think the last game I got from them was even like shrink wrapped. They do really good quality work. I like their stuff. I think that they're starting to move into higher end products, maybe more limited edition, because there's kind of like a process where everybody kind of starts out doing the general thing, which is repros, but then I think everybody realizes, oh, I could get in trouble, and so you slowly move away from that and try and get into other things. So they did, like Legend of Link was a hack that somebody did, and they got permission from that guy, so that's a little safer. Still a gray area. Here's a copy of my Legend of Link. Then there's the Bishop Brothers. I don't know. I got to check on these guys because they were doing stuff for a while. Another person that I can never get them to respond to anything. I saw an episode of Metal Jesus Rocks where Reggie came on, and they made this purple cart version of a game with Reggie, and I hit him up and was like, "Hey, can I get a copy?" And that was it. That's why their description's so short. I don't know anything. They kind of disappeared. But they were making good stuff while they were doing it, and they were, doing some interesting projects here and there. They're just kind of hard to get a hold of. If you can, they do nice stuff. Okay, then you got Infinite NES Lives. They're kind of a community supplier. There's another guy, but they were doing a lot of the new boards, new shells, new colors for the shells, like white and orange and stuff like that. Again, like when I made this, it was kind of like them, but now I know there's like 2 or 3 other people that started making carts, so it's like all the cool stuff for them, kind of toned down a little bit. They also make the Kazoo. It's a ROM dumper flasher. It's a little cart that you can either put a blank card on and then tell your computer, put this ROM on it, or you can plug it in and you can pull a ROM off something. So it's kind of a both flasher and a dumper. And they're also a homebrew distributor. So they've got some homebrew games on their website. That's where you would go to get Armed for Battle, Nighttime Bastards. I think they do the Action 53 multi-carts. So they do coding competitions, and then they take the games that the people made and put them on one cart. And I think they've done 2? Yeah, they've done 2 so far. So here's Armed for Battle again. I think it's in there twice because Riz was at the Midwest Gaming Classic and asked me to kind of hype it up a little bit. It really is a good game, though. I loved it. It's awesome if you like strategy. All right, and then RetroScribe. They're one of the newer ones. They started off as just doing blank carts on Etsy. So it was like really just like a cart with a label on it that said happy birthday. It was more just kind of like a gimmick, like something fun to do. But then they actually made a game called Blow 'Em Out, where it's a birthday game and you run around blowing out candles. So they like took it the extra step and made it into something. So they moved into homebrews. They've also done Beer Slinger. It's just like Tapper, right? Same thing? Yeah. And Perfect Pair recently, that just came out for Valentine's Day this year. You can get it personalized, which I did. I sent them a picture of me and my old lady, and now the sprites in there look like me and her. And then you got to customize the text at the end so that it says, Happy Valentine's Day, I love you. She hasn't beat it yet, so because you had to beat it in order to see what it is. And she doesn't play games either. And I told her, I was like, I'm not doing it for you. So as far as I know, she's at home right now working on it. Because she played a little bit and then got embarrassed because I was like, no, you need to do this. And then she's like, I'm not playing this in front of you anymore. And then all of their games so far have had like a limited edition and then a regular edition. The boxes are usually a different color. I think they're numbered too. Yeah, I got mine on there, 35 for Beer Slinger. So those are their games. And then you got the people that were making the paper and stuff. And if I clarified, I maybe would have moved this room as an illusion down there. So Uncle Tusk, he makes paper products. So a lot of these guys that are making these games, coming up with them and stuff, well, you need somebody to give you the supplies. And so Tusk does boxes and manuals. He also runs the Classic Tetris World Championship at PRGE. And he was also the producer of the documentary Ecstasy of Order, available on Netflix, I believe. It was the last time I did this. If you haven't checked it out, it's really, really good. It's all about Tetris Grandmasters, and it touches on the Nintendo World Championship and Robin and Thor just a little bit. You also got NES City, on a mission to end homelessness for game carts. They also make paper products, boxes, and manuals. And usually if Tusk doesn't make it, like if you wanted a box for something like, say, Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt World Class Track Meet, didn't come with a box. So like, one guy makes that, and then I don't have a really good example for another one. Shoot, another game that didn't come with a box. Help me out. Yeah, Miracle Piano. There you go. Didn't come with one. So like, if one guy is not making it, you can usually jump on the other dude's site, and he's gonna have what you're looking for. All right, wrap that shit up, B. You've been going for a long time. So we only scratched the surface. I kind of talked about Princess Rescue and the Nintendo of America cease and desist. There's so much stuff I could talk about. Destroying carts for repros and the effect that might have had on rarity. Luckily things are changing. Membler's created a new board that uses a lot of the mappers. Because back in the day, like if you wanted to make a repro for some of these games, you were having to take like Return of the Joker, which is like a semi-uncommon game, right? Isn't that one of the ones where like, yeah, you're destroying something that actually had value. It's like, that's not John Elway or Major League Baseball. Like, that's a decent game. Now with everybody making new parts and stuff, like that may not be so much of an issue. But like when I first did this, there was maybe one guy you could get stuff from, and I thought that might be an issue. No, maybe not so much. Reproing homebrews, I saw that there was somebody who wanted a Famicom version of Battle Kid, so they went ahead and made it on their own, and that turned into a big conversation about, well, that's a homebrew, and he's still selling that game. Was that legal for you to make it? It was an interesting conversation. Oh, and then I changed it, my awesome hair. I used to have really, really long hair. I recently donated 12 inches, so I mean, my hair still looks good, but it's not as impressive as it used to be. All right, so resources on NA. There's a bunch of stuff. If you're curious on anything that I just got done talking about, NintendoAge.com is a good place for it. You got my Aftermarket price guide where I'm keeping track of new games that are coming out, the prices they're getting sold for, stuff like that. Gwyndian's thread, I mean, he's not on there as much as he used to, but it's still a decent place to go because even though he's not updating the main thing, people are still posting on it at the end saying, hey, I'm a new repro maker and I make stuff. So just going through his thread, you're going to find people making stuff. Soul Goose's thread, he's a new guy and he's tracking just homebrews. That's his thing. If it's a new homebrew, you can go on his thread and he usually has a copy of it. And he's not like me. I'm strictly Nintendo. I really don't care about the other systems. I've been asked to branch out because I'm doing a good job with this, but I'm a Nintendo guy. I mean, Sega holds nothing for me. All those other systems, just like, meh. That's just
Nintendo does what Sega don't.
Yeah, there you go. That's just a personal preference, you know? But he tracks everything else. Like, so if you're interested in any homebrews, you can go there and he's got like Sega, all the other systems. All right, so Let's Play Gang episode. This is back where I was hyping it up. I'll hype it up again. What's it gonna have? The tournament. We got a national Smash competition. We got the regional qualifier for the Tetris World Championship. All right, we did Clue last year. This year we're gonna do Sorry. We will have Foursquare again. We had 89 arcades last year. We're gonna have 90 this year, 90 plus. Vendors, we're keeping the same. There's like 80. Artists, we're gonna have a lot of developers there too. That's just me hyping up my expo. Hype, hype, hype. Dallas, Texas, June 18th and 19th. All right, so that was me. I'm winding down. I'm gonna ask a question here so I can do my giveaway. Okay, I know what I'll ask. So Roadkill, the game that I have over here, the only copy, it disappeared. How many years did it disappear for? I saw this dude first.
I believe it was 8 years.
Wrong. Nah, I'm not gonna do it because I know you. Sorry. I will go this person right here. Well, you know what? Because now you guys are confusing me, and I thought that I knew. Let me go back and make sure. I don't think it was 6 though either. It was 10. Yeah. Who said it?
Everybody said it.
Everybody said it.
Do another question. Do another question.
Okay, I said the highest price homebrew recently just sold. What was the price that it sold for? $18.50 is correct, sir. You can come up here and grab your copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 Mix. All right, you know what? Here, I'll do another one because the Nintendo Age guys are complaining. I got some stuff here. Why didn't I consider Solar Wars to be the first homebrew? All right, he said it first. There you go, man. Free NA hat. Woo! All right, so that's my presentation. Do I have any time left?
Got 2 minutes.
I know, it's a really long, I know a lot of stuff, sorry. 40 seconds. Is there any questions?
So are you working on any future projects?
Oh, thank you, dude. I'm sorry. I'm so focused on this. Like, I was really stressing over giving this presentation. I care about this stuff. I'm also getting ready to start a Kickstarter for a documentary about Earthbound. Thank you for reminding me. These two guys over here are huge Earthbound fans, and they approached me because I do film stuff. There we go. They approached me to help them make a documentary about the very first Earthbound, not Earthbound Zero or Mother as it was known over in Japan. And they've tracked down the people that own all the prototypes that were here in America. They've talked with the guy who did the translation for it into English. All these people have agreed to be on camera. We just need some help with the funding, and we are working on all the cool stuff to give away. So that's my next kind of big project, Earthbound Kickstarter, Mother to Earth. I'm excited about it. I'm not a fan of Earthbound, honestly, but I love the story. The story is what's really interesting. It's all about how we did not get that game, and it's really, really cool to hear, which is why I'm all for it, man, and I'm going to help you guys out all I can. Any other questions about the presentation?
You talked about, the early days of label printing, when it was just like, printing an image out and putting masking tape over it. Those just like glued to cartridges.
I don't know how they were gluing them. That's actually a good question.
I think we should get a hat. This kid's only 15 years old and expressing interest.
There you go, man. That's a good question. There's an NA hat for you. I will have to ask somebody how they did that. Now, if you want to see an example of like these really terrible labels, then come up here and check out Roadkill, and like you'll see like that's the first label. It looks awful, but hey, man, it's a part of history, and we're lucky that we've got it here.
Go ahead and take it with you.
Yeah, right. But that's the beginning, man. That's how it started. Anybody else? Yes. The EverDrive 64 is the only thing that I know of. I heard that it's really, really complicated, and I think that that's probably going to take a team. I don't see a single person pulling that off. It's going to take a handful of people that are really, really into it, I think, to pull that off. Hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I said cart-based, but that's kind of the exclusion, other than the EverDrive that I know of. Anything else? All right, that's it. If you want to come up.
Available. I would like to get your phone number.
No, got a ring. You can get my card if you got any questions. I got my expo cards. I got my filmmaking cards. Come on up here. Thanks, guys.